Getting my landlords arrested for grand theft. I used to live in a rental townhome. The place was great. It was run by a big company, but they paid an on site super to run the office, coordinate repairs, etc. I moved in it while this nice older couple retired. A few years later, they moved on, and the company hired these two young dudes. They were assholes. Recent college grads who looked down on the blue collar tenants, did loud parties all night, generally ignored the grounds, ignored maintenance requests, etc. But that's not how I got them arrested. In addition to renting the townhouse, you could rent a covered spot. If you did, they gave you a hang tag, and if you didn't have the hang tag, you would get towed. I had the same car, same spot, and same tag the whole time I lived there. One day, I come home and my car is gone. It was towed for no hang tag, but in the pictures the tow company took, it's clearly there. I paid to get it out and complained to the two idiots. They had to call to authorize the tow. Company couldn't do it on their own. They gave me a half-assed apology. About a week later, same problem. Again, tow for no tag. Again, tag's right there. This time I called the corporate office and complained. After that, it started happening nearly every day. When I talked to the supers about it, they'd just laugh. They knew they were doing it on purpose, so I did some research. The tow company gave me names of the people who called it in, and it was mostly one guy, but some the other. The tow company wasn't liable because the landlords had called them, so that was out. But I did some research and found that in my state, calling for a tow when you know it's not a legal tow is grand theft auto, just like if you had broken into that car. I also found out you can record conversations in my state without telling the other person. So I went in to meet the two bros to talk about the situation. They told me, on tape, that the first two times were mistakes, but after that they did it on purpose and would keep doing it until I learned my lesson. They stated that they knew I was okay to park there, but they didn't care. I took that recording and the list of calls to a buddy who's an attorney, and he helped me take it to the local police. Police were more than happy to have a couple felony charges dropped in their laps, so they filed charges and went to arrest them. Corporate fired them the same day, refunded all my fees for getting my car out of hock, and gave me a rental discount for a few months. They both ended up eating the felony and got probation. Last I heard, they aren't able to find decent jobs because of the felonies, and also couldn't pay their student loans. Both ended up working construction, which they'd sneered at because that's all they had left. Man, I sure hope those landlords learned their lesson. They got knocked right off the top of their food chain into the position they looked down on before. That's satisfying comeuppance. Hello, and welcome to Best Served Cold, the coolest stories brought to you weekly. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our content. Dealership ends up giving my friend a newer car for free. Circa 2020, January, my friend makes a stupid decision and buys a brand new car that he can't afford. His insurance is like $400 a month, and he makes like $10.25 an hour working shift supervisor at McDonald's. His car payment is like $7.95 a month. Now, at $10.25 an hour, 30 hours a week, that's a weekly income of about $300 a week, or $1,230 a month. So, yeah. So my friend came to me for help because I used to sell cars and I know the industry pretty well. I go over his paperwork. The dealer did rip him off, but my friend is trying to find a way to get out of this mess. And ripping someone off isn't illegal. They did, of course, overcharge him for the warranty. They gave him a higher APR, they had add-ons, etc. But none of that is illegal, and I know the only way I can get my friend out of this deal is if they did something illegal. So I look at his finance application that my friend signed. It correctly listed his income, which turned a light bulb on in my head. No bank is going to approve someone for a $795 car payment if they're only making $1,200 a month. It does not make mathematical sense to do that. So I start searching through his paperwork for the finance app the dealer submitted to the bank. You oftentimes, when you submit a finance application at a dealership, the dealership will take the hand-filled out application and reproduce it electronically. This is fairly normal. However, on the application the dealer submitted to the bank, the dealer said my friend was a general manager of the McDonald's and made $70,000. My friend had good credit, so it doesn't appear like the bank asked for proof of income. So I go to the dealership with my friend and tell the sales manager he's going to want to put me in touch with the GM because we are going to be unwinding my friend's deal and giving his trade-in back. The sales manager thought I was joking. The general manager also thought I was joking. Then I demonstrated how his dealership finance department committed bank fraud. I showed the GM the finance app my friend filled out. Then I showed the GM the finance app his dealership submitted to the bank and pointed at the income difference. My friend really made $14,000 a year. The dealership claimed my friend made $70,000 a year. That's a bank fraud. That's a felony. Let's keep this simple, shall we? The GM sees his dealership is in a load of shit. The proof I'm presenting to him is rock solid. He knows it, I know it, we're all on the same page. He goes, okay, so what can I do to make this right? And I go, unwind the deal, give my friend his trade-in back. Unwinding the deal is basically the GM agreeing to cancel the deal and basically erasing the deal and pretending it never happened. GM tries to avoid that, but I remain firm and remind him that we can easily take this documentation and turn his life into a living hell. He knows I'm right. My friend also needs a car to get to work the next day. The GM says he'll check into it and comes back and tells me unfortunately they sold his trade-in car already. I said, that's fine, unwind the deal and let's put my friend into something as good or slightly better than what he traded in for. So the GM goes, so he'll buy a car similar to his trade-in? I say, no, you'll give him a car similar to his trade-in. The GM says, that doesn't work that way. And I reply, it does when you commit bank fraud. GM is upset with me, and I remind him, I'm being really nice, and this situation can get really ugly. Like, felony level charges ugly. Losing your franchise ugly. So this is going to hurt, but it'll hurt less my way. So the GM goes, all right, and he looks in his inventory and tells me they have a 2007 Focus with 10,000 more miles than his car had. I tell him, no, the car you give my friend needs to be the same or better than what he traded in. The GM counters, I'm giving him a free car. And I say, no, you took his trade-in, you sold it, you made money on the sale, and you also committed a felony in the process of selling him his new car. You're just correcting that mistake. There's no free car here. The GM insists that's what he's willing to do, and I tell him that if he can't do better, then we will go to a consumer protection attorney and have a conversation with them. My friend didn't want to go this route, but it was our plan B. We get up, and the GM says, wait, give me a second. The GM goes, I have an '08 Civic that has 5,000 more miles, but it's a Civic, not a Focus. If I unwind the deal on the new car, and I can put your friend in the Civic at no extra cost. We agree. The GM has the paper drawn up, the old loan on the new car is canceled, and they take in the new car again. But because it's already titled, they'll have to sell it as used. That sucks for them. And they gave my friend a better car than the one he traded in. Man, I'm sure if they involved that lawyer immediately, those guys would not have had such a satisfying ending. Good on them, and congrats on the new car. Messing with an engineer is a mistake. I worked for a company that provides specialized equipment used in manufacturing. To protect my anonymity, I'll have to be vague about what exactly the machines do. During my time working in this field, I got to know many clients who would need machines installed and serviced. One of these customers we'll call Jake. I later left the company for a different job, but Jake apparently kept my number. One afternoon, I got a call from Jake that they wanted a new unit installed and another unit needed maintenance and wanted to know if I was available. I let him know that I left the company, but that I could pass him on to someone who could help. He tells me he'll pay twice my current rate to install the unit over the weekend. He lets me know the company has increased the rates for installation and the company just can't afford it. The instructions they sent over aren't clear enough and their engineers are scratching their heads trying to figure it out. He begs me to consider, and I agree. For more context, installing this unit can take a good few hours, or even up to a day on your own. The company gives you two options. You can either pay for an engineer to come and install it, or you can save money and they will send the instructions so the customer's own engineers can install it. The instructions aren't easy to follow, and it's company policy that if someone has started an install, the supplier wouldn't get involved since they couldn't verify that any of the pieces were broken. This will be important later. I drive down on the weekend and they show me the boxes of equipment. I set to work and I made good progress installing the unit. Around 6 hours in, I'm stopped by Jake, who greets me. I let him know that I'm nearly finished, and he says, sorry, but they just don't have the budget to pay you. He understands my frustration, but his engineers can take it from here. To say I was frustrated was an understatement. I wanted revenge. There's a small button inside the unit that changes the unit into test mode. This is done to perform maintenance on the unit, but it's impossible to configure the unit with this button pressed. It's only possible to reach this button using a small pin, so it's not easily pressed during installation. Because of this, the installation instructions don't mention it. There's no real way of telling the equipment is in test mode, it just won't work normally. I think you see where this is going. I click the button, collect my things, and leave. Monday morning, I get a call from Jake. I decline. I knew my old company wouldn't get involved since I had already started installing the unit. I knew his engineers would never figure it out. I just had to let him stew. A few days later, with many missed calls, I finally pick up. Jake is furious. He asked me where the hell I'd been and why I hadn't been picking up my phone. He tells me they can't figure out how to configure the machine and they need my help. I tell him, why is this my problem? You won't pay me. He told me that he was sorry and they would work something out if I could get there as soon as possible. I told him, oh no, you're gonna pay me 7,000 euros up front before I do anything. I had never felt this powerful before. He screamed at me for a bit and hung up. He called back a day later after saying he's sorry for how he acted and said that if I could come fix it, he would pay me, in a totally defeated tone. He tried to fight, saying he'll pay when I was done, but I was having none of it. After a bit of back and forth, he agrees to pay me. The money hit my account, and I came in the next day. The look of confusion over his face when I pulled out a pin and changed the unit from test mode was priceless. It was even more priceless seeing his reaction to me packing up my tools and leaving after only 20 minutes of configuring. Easiest 7,000 euros I've ever made. Don't try to mess with a professional problem solver. Yeah, if there was ever a story to convince you not to mess with an engineer, this is it. Of course, they didn't mention their field for anonymity, but I'm fairly confident most manufacturing equipment is both expensive and delicate. It takes years of training to learn how to understand those machines, and if you're not ready to commit to that education, just leave it to the professionals. Come rain or shine, we'll keep bringing you stories you love. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications to keep up to date with all the latest content. We'll see you next time.